Hey, fellow babies, welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. I am hopeful you are a Patreon patron, and we appreciate your patronage. If you are not, or even if you are, please try to link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account, and we get paid by Amazon, so that's really cool. Our question today from Sifted from Herbatronic. You and some others feel that the upcoming generation will be the last generation of consoles as we know them, and that most everything will be moving server-side. How will companies deal with the related latency and infrastructure issues? The FCC recently said half of Americans don't even have 25 megabit internet right now. At the end of the decade, do you think it will be much better? How do you propose people play multiplayer games like Call of Duty or Street Fighter, where latency is everything? Do you still see platform holders pressing forward or making adjustments? You need a client resident device in order to cut down on latency. And I'm going to give you some tech here and tell you that when I turn on the microwave, I don't understand why my food gets hot. And when I turn on the left faucet, I don't really know where the hot water comes from. But when you are playing a multiplayer game that is server-based, and the server is doing all the processing, and you and I are playing against one another, Street Fighter, and I punch you, everything has to be rendered in the cloud. And all of our different moves and stuff is rendered and sent to you and sent to me. And when you act on it over here and I act on it over here, it goes from your action up to the cloud, processes, comes down to me, and I see what you did. I respond, it goes back to the cloud and comes down to you, and you see what I did. So everything has to travel back and forth, and it takes a long time. And bottom line is, even the speed of light is milliseconds. So anything where there's packet loss going back and forth over the internet slows down the process, because the server's trying to replace the lost packets and make sure we all see what's going on. When we each have a console, your console and my console are rendering at the same time. They're working in parallel. Now you're looking at the field differently than I'm looking at the field, so we're seeing different things. But your console and my console are figuring out what we are seeing. They know where we are in relation to one another. So when I pick up my gun to shoot you in Call of Duty, your console knows I picked up my gun. And when I pull the trigger, the only thing that's going back and forth is one bit of information. I pulled the trigger, and it just processes that. This console is processing where I aimed, because that's happening kind of when I do it, and your console is anticipating my motion, and it's obvious. It fills in the next blanks. And therefore, there's no packet loss. Almost nothing is going in the cloud. The cloud doesn't have to process very much, just a single command, Pachter, pull the trigger. And then your console decides if I was aiming right and you got shot, and my console's deciding that at the same time, and then you die or you don't. And so multiplayer works. And there is latency in multiplayer. It's just tiny, because we both have consoles and they're processing in parallel. If we get rid of our consoles and the cloud has to do it, it's got to process, send it to you, figure out what you're doing, come back, process, send it to me, figure out what I'm doing, process. It's a multiple of the amount of information coming back and forth as when we both have consoles. When latency was still an issue back in 2015, I said, I don't think these guys are ever going to overcome latency in the cloud. And I think Amazon is going to design a console, and they're going to call it an Amazon Echo version 10 or whatever. And you'll have this Echo device, and built inside the Echo device will be some flash memory. You don't need a lot. And you'll have a CPU and a GPU in there that's good enough, probably PS3 level, but good enough. And you're not going to get 4K in the cloud. You're going to get 1080p. You might not get 60 frames, but you get 30. It'd be good enough. And you and I each will have an Echo device, or I'll have an Echo device and you'll have a PC. And we're going to play together, and they'll both render fine, and it'll be on our TV, because your Echo device, Bluetooth will connect to anything. Now, you might need a Fire TV stick to hook it up to your TV, but it'll work. And Amazon's going to win. And they're going to own the cloud, because that Echo device is going to be $100. It's not going to have a screen. It's not going to be significantly more complicated than the current Echo devices that cost $100. And even if it costs them 120 or 140 to make it, they'll just raise the price of Prime from 119 to 149. And for 149 a year, they will subsidize the Echo device. You will get unlimited multiplayer gaming, and they'll send you a free controller, and it will work. So the answer to your question is, that's what I think they're going to do. Now, that's them. Then you got Google, and Google's like, no. You're going to buy a Chromecast Ultra. You're going to pay us $15 a month. The games are going to be built in Linux, and we're going to own the world because everybody wants to pay $15 a month for the right to access our servers. That's just idiotic, and nobody's spending the money. Not happening. So that model's already proven to be a complete dud. You heard about Google Stadia lately? Yeah, I didn't think so. You know anybody who's a member? No, I didn't think so. So that model's dumb. It's possible we will get super fast distributed servers. So maybe Amazon can have a server within, a mile of everybody's home on the planet. And maybe the server in Long Beach where I live and the server, I didn't look where you live, but let's Herbitronic. Well, I'll assume in Connecticut where you live, maybe those are parallel processing just like our consoles. And then it's just the last mile that's broadcasting you and me. That'll get rid of latency too. But that requires massive server build out. And the thing with Amazon is they're doing that too. So I don't really know. That's why I said I don't really know how microwave works. They might not need that much in the Echo device if they can just do enough processing to get to a nearby server and the servers work in parallel. But the easiest thing to do is have the Echo device do it, because they know the Echo device, while you're using it to play games, you're not going to be asking Alexa what the weather is in Brazil, and you're not going to be listening to Spotify on your device. You're going to be playing games. So I think that's the solution. I think that's the way around it. As far as the 25 megabit internet, yeah, you're going to be limited. I mean, the biggest drivers of faster internet are the guys who are adopting streaming movies. And so, we have 60 some odd million households in the US that have some streaming service, whether it's Disney Plus or HBO Max or Netflix or Hulu or whatever. That's 2/3 of all households. So I don't know how they're getting Netflix with slow internet, because there's a lot of data flowing back and forth. Internet's getting faster. That's an infrastructure play. 5G is going to fix a lot of that. We're going to get our internet through 5G. So, I mean, the answer is at the end of this decade, yeah, 5G will be a thing. So at the end of this decade, the only thing about 5G is it doesn't go through glass. So you're going to need like a little 5G router tower thing outside your house that wires into your house. So it'll be like a little receiver outside that has a line of sight to the 5G tower. They're talking 5G towers on top of light poles, so street lights. And that actually is pretty compelling, and I think that's pretty easy to do. Obviously, it's a massive infrastructure project. I don't think it's expensive, though. Expensive as in $1,000 per light pole or something, but the light poles already exist. They already have a power source, so it's something they could do. So I think that's something we're going to see happen, but end of the decade, sure. So answer is yes, I think we're going to get distributed computing or distributed gaming through something other than a conventional console. As I said, I think Amazon wins. Watch my September 19th, 2015 Barcelona speech. Will Microsoft and Sony try to do the same thing? What Microsoft and Sony are going to do is say, we already have that. It's called Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. And if you have one of these, you should do ours instead of the Echo device. And oh, by the way, we're going to keep enhancing the Xbox so that you can say, hey, Xbox, what's the weather in Brazil? And Xbox will answer. So my guess is they're going to kind of morph into what an Alexa device does, or a Google Home or an Apple HomePod. And they're going to say, not only do you get that, but you can sign up for Game Pass, you can sign up for Xbox Live, you can sign up for Xbox Music, you can get Xbox Books, whatever. They're going to try to become the entertainment device. And their big hook is, We run 4K, I guess 240 frames a second. We run virtual reality. Maybe they will. They'll have other hooks that are better than this Alexa device. And the Alexa device, as I said, has to be $100. And the question is, does Xbox Series X come down in price to $100 in a reasonable period of time? Not in 2022 or 3, but maybe in 2025 or 6. So by the end of the decade, you might have Microsoft, Sony, and Amazon and Google all making consoles. And the consoles just aren't going to be called consoles. I mean, if it really is only $50 or $60 for the chipset and another $30 or $40 for flash, why isn't somebody just build that into a TV? That company is Apple. And people have been saying Apple was going to make a television for the last decade, and they haven't done it. It's because Apple's waiting until they can do that. So if Apple does that, you know who else is going to do it? Sony. And so the TV is going to be called the PlayStation television. And it's going to have a CPU and a GPU built in. I mean, why not? Sony is natural to do that. They're going to do that. So the answer to your question is, I think the whole world changes. And I think what happens is consoles become ubiquitous. And it's sort of like saying 30 years ago, 40 years ago, the telephone was going to disappear. Well, the telephone as we knew it back then, which was, dial up or push button or whatever, but this device is gone. But we still have telephones. It's just they're different than what we had, 30 or 40 years ago. All right, Herbitronic, thanks for the question. Thank you, those of you who are watching as Patreon patrons. We appreciate it. Thank you if you have taken the time to link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account. We need that money and it's free, costs you nothing. Thank you if you are a YouTube subscriber, and thank you if you follow me on Twitter at Michael Pachter. See you next time.